Hey guys, and welcome back to Franchise Nation. I'm your host, Moonlightswami, and today I'm bringing you guys a little bit of a league recap playoff preview before we get into the actual postseason. Here are the standings. I will show all awards after the season is over, kind of do the NFL honors type thing. Not the same way, but just have it at the end instead of right at the beginning of the postseason. But we take a look at the standings, and we end up tied with the Miami Dolphins for the best record in football. We end the season on an 11-game winning streak after starting the season 2-0. We lost 3 straight, and then we ended up winning 11 straight. Not easy games. Definitely, this group has become the cardiac kids, where you give everybody a heart attack and you're playing full 60-minute football a lot of the time. But we did pull it out, and the Seahawks actually lost to the Chicago Bears. Russell Wilson had 3 interceptions against them, and that helped seal up our 1 seed. So let's take a look at the division, see who made the playoffs. In the NFC West, the Seahawks and Rams both made it. Interesting, NFC East, the Redskins went 8-8 and won the division. NFC South, we made it, and the Falcons at 10-6 made it. Poor Panthers. That tie really hurt them in the end. I think they had a better divisional record. Yeah, they would have gotten it. They just were a game behind, which is unfortunate, obviously. The Packers made it at 9-7. Lions just got snubbed. That's too bad. Onto the AFC, the Chiefs and Chargers both are in the playoffs. Raiders at 7-9, Broncos at 6-10. The Dolphins and Patriots both have made it. Dolphins winning the division behind fellow rookie Colby Ditka, who came in after Ryan Tannehill tore his biceps mid-season. In the AFC South, the Jaguars made it, but the Colts didn't. They went 10-6. That's such a shame. They made a run for it at the end, but they couldn't get it done. And the AFC North, the Ravens at 7-9 made the playoffs. So we have an 8-8 team and a 7-9 team in the playoffs. Not exactly a good year for some of these divisions, but the Steelers, who started 0-9, won 6 of their last 7. And they ended up finishing in second place. I don't know what the point was, but they just were on the outside of the Ravens, who, when they have Joe Flacco, have been dynamic. So let's take a look at some firings real quick, and then we can get into the schedule and the stats for the entire year. Alright, so there have been 4 coaches fired. Bruce Arians for the 7-9 Cardinals, Chip Kelly for the pitiful 49ers. Jets didn't do very well, and Mike Zimmer didn't do very well either. So those are the 4 coaches that have been fired thus far. And now we move on to our team. Michael Wong ended his rookie season 4,500 yards, or 4,600 yards basically, 500 attempts, 31 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, 69%, 9.1 yards per attempt. Not bad at all. He was sacked 38 times. Wesley Ripkowski had minimal role. He did make some plays, though, in that final game against Cincinnati. On the ground, Rakeem Blackman, 280 attempts, 1,582 yards, 5.7 yards per carry, 19 touchdowns, 30 broken tackles, a long of 65 yards. He was phenomenal. Ingram had some time in. Michael Wong also added 2 rushing touchdowns. Antoine Whiting, Frank Carter, they got some touches, etc. And moving on, DeAndre Hopkins led the team, 76 receptions, 1,268 yards, and 12 touchdowns. Then comes Kent Clemens, 67, 1,073 yards and 5 scores. Eden, 61 for 641 and 4. Michael Thomas, who is currently hurt, 54, 840 and 3 touchdowns. Rakeem Blackman, 54, 588 and 5 touchdowns. Then Aquana Oliver and Mark Ingram, really not a good numbers for receiving. 11 receptions for 29 yards is disgusting. Jaron Brown will be filling, most likely, that slot role that Michael Thomas was playing for us, but it's still a huge loss not to have Thomas for the entirety of the playoffs, who we did place on IR. I believe we activated Isaiah Florence as our 5th wide receiver now that Thomas is hurt. In terms of sacks, Corey Stuvance allowed 13, Trellon Kraft 8, Krenzel 4, Armstead 3, Coleman 3, Vollmer 3. So right tackle total gave up 6. Right guard gave up 13. Left guard 8. Center 4. So We did give up some sacks this year. Stuvans definitely didn't have a great year in terms of dealing with interior rushers, but that's just something that he's going to have to work on. Maybe it won't be something he's good at as a whole, but he's a really good run blocker. So you kind of take that with a grain of salt. On defense, Shad Houston ended with 148 tackles, 22 for a loss. Von Bell, 122. John Hastings, 104. Fassitt, 84. McNeil, 79. Anthony, 74. Rankin, 71. Kidd, 68. Schillen, 62. Jordan, 55. Sam Moreland, 53. Darquez Nard, 45. Fuller, etc. Tackles for a loss, Shad Houston, 22. Hastings, 17. Schillen, 16. Rankins, 14. Anthony, 12. Onyemata, 12. Then we get to the sacks. Nickel Schillens in his rookie campaign, filling in for Cameron Jordan, ended up putting up 14 sacks in 727 downs played. Jordan put up some impressive numbers, 11 sacks despite missing a good chunk of the season. Very proud of him for that. Taking a look further, Easley 6.5, Rankins 6.0, Onyemata 5, Anthony 4.5, Hastings 3.5, etc. Interceptions. We finally did get some interceptions later in the season. 2 for Hastings, 2 for Houston, 2 for Denard, 2 for Fuller. And then a bunch of guys had 1. Pass deflections. Jocqua Fassitt had 12. And I think Fassitt was probably our best player on defense this season. He did such a good job just covering his side, dealing with anybody who got in his way. And Nickel Schillens, 5 forced fumbles. That's crazy. In terms of kicking, Will Lutz ended the season 30 for 31. The only miss was a block. 51 for 53 on extra points. He did miss one of those legitimately. One was blocked as well. But Lutz was fantastic. And from range, I mean, he was 20 for 20 from inside 40. And then 8 for 8. And then only 3 attempts from real distance. And one of them was blocked. So he didn't have he wasn't kicking, incredibly tough kicks, but he was extremely consistent. And we also play in a dome. Javier Moran, 57 punts, 29 inside the 20, only 4 touchbacks, but he was blocked twice. So you know what? He had a really good season, but those blocks need to be cut down a little bit. Antoine Whiting, a touchdown on kick return. No punt return touchdowns, but still good. Taking a look around the league, Andy Dalton led the NFL in passing yards, followed by Andrew Luck, then Michael Wong, 3rd. Then Roethlisberger 4th, Rivers, Bortles, Darren Lane, Rogers, etc. Touchdowns, interception, Dalton 34, Matt Ryan 30 touchdowns, only 9 picks. Wong 31 and 15, Roethlisberger 29 and 15, etc. Interception leader is Brody Cochran 22, Goff 21, Lane 18, Lynch 18, Luck 17, bunch of guys at 15. Yards per attempt. Gonna be a little bit inflated by those guys, but Michael Wong led the way in that department. Tom Brady pretty close behind him. He did miss a lot of time though. Time sacked. Cam Newton 68 times. Dalton 66. Lynch 64. Stafford 62. A lot of sacks. A lot of sacks. In terms of rushing yards, Devontae Freeman 232 yards behind Raheem Blackman. Had 5 more carries to him. Giovanni Bernard was pretty good. Zeke, Jarvis Cochran getting in the end zone a lot. Touchdowns, it was Blackman, then Elliott, Cochran, and Yeldon. So no real surprise there. Most fumbles goes to Kentrell Windsor and Jaden Fluker, both with 9. Stewart with 8. Wong had 7, but that kind of happens. Devontae Freeman, 43 broken tackles, then 41 for Gio. Bad longest run of the season, 97 yards by David Johnson. I think that was against us, wasn't it? I think so. Duke Johnson, 94 yards. Le'Veon Bell, Amir Abdullah. On to wide receivers. No one cracked 100 receptions, but we have a bunch close. Doug Baldwin, Julius Thomas, and A.J. Green, T.Y. Hilton, Rashard Matthews, and Gronk all over that 89 mark, so 90 or better. Receiving yards, that goes to A.J. Green. Hopkins was right behind him. 76 receptions versus 92. It's a pretty good gap. Touchdowns, it's Hopkins, Keenan Allen, Coco McLeod, Cruz, and Darian Strickland all in double digits. So only 2 players from the NFC, 3 from the AFC. No wonder why Hopkins seems to have a pretty clear lead at the wide receiver position in terms of awards last time I checked. On to blocking. Who gave up the most sacks? Taylor Decker, 31, Tobin, 28, Veldier, 28, Shaughnessy, 23, Antoine Pierman, 21, passers Khalil, Mills, and Wells, all 20. On defense, Shad Houston, second in tackles in the NFL. Yeah, it looks like it. We'll start with the AFC. Bernardrick McKinney leads the way in that department. Tackles for a loss, 24 for Watt, 24 for Hayward, 24 for Darius, 23 for Wilkerson, 21 for Richardson. Sacks, 25 for Khalil Mack. That's a new NFL record. 16 for Watt. 6 interceptions for Artie Burns, 6 for Swan, 5 for Alonzo, 5 for Berry, 5 for Brown, Rivas, and Talib. On to the NFC. Tackles. Navarro Bowman, then Shad Houston. So Shad was second in the NFL in tackles. Tackles for a loss. He led the NFC, which means that he would be 4th place overall. Linval Joseph with 21. Sacks in the NFC. The leader is Robert Quinn at 22. Graham 20. Averill 16. Daniels 15.5. Nickel Shillings 14. Barwin 13.5, etc. And interceptions leader is Luke Kuechly with 7. Trevathan 6. And so on and so forth. On to kickers as a whole. Was there anybody who was even close? 93% for Connor Barth. Not bad. Aguayo, 86%. Hauschka, 86%. Carlos Santos, 84%. So there is a drop-off, obviously, but we do have the most field goals, second most field goals attempted, and obviously the most made, which I'm okay with. You know, we converted a lot of kicks. It's fine by me. In terms of punts, I don't think anybody was close in terms of inside the 20. Yeah, it was Javier Moran and Bradley Pinion. Not bad. 2 blocks, touchbacks, etc. Kick return, 2 for Rashad Green, 2 for Hilton, 2 for Judah McClain, 1 for Martavis, Whiting, Peterson, Philly, Benjamin, Bernard, Riddick, McElrath, Lamb, and Djax. And punt return, 2 for LaJarvis Ball. He's really fast. Really fast. 1 for Landry, 1 for McClain, 1 for Gio, 1 for Austin, Hollis, Deshaun, Hughes, Odell, Cobb, and Benjamin. So we already know that Rakeem Blackman won Player of the Week in Week 14. Week 15, it was Rodgers and Copels, Bell and Mack. Week 16, it was Lane and McPhee, Brissett and Riley. And then Week 17, it was Palmer and Kendall Fuller, Lucky Whitehead, and Artie Burns. We will be using Delvin Breaux in our first game of the postseason. It's just we really wanted to take it easy and not force it on him when he was still recovering from that foot injury. So the wild card round was pretty good. Outside of San Diego versus Kansas City, all 1-score games. That game itself was a pretty good blowout by San Diego. They dominated pretty much most of the game. I guess Alex Smith got hurt and Cortez Meeks came in and just wasn't enough for them. But that's a bit unfortunate for Kansas City. Green Bay versus Atlanta. This was a really tightly contested game. I'm glad we don't have to face Atlanta for the 3rd time this season. Ryan, just not enough. Rodgers, 255, 2 touchdowns, no picks. On to the next game, Patriots at Ravens, and the Ravens actually knocked off the Patriots. 21 points in that second quarter was just too much for them to overcome. Brady still isn't playing because he's hurt, obviously. Jacoby Brissett had a pretty decent game, just not enough. Flacco was solid. Okay, that's pretty much that. And on to the last game, Rams at Redskins, and the Rams tried to make a comeback, but the Redskins did hold them off. And Kirk Cousins is back. Jared Goff had a pretty good game, all things considered. So did Cousins. The scores came on the ground, which, wow, 13 for 78 and 20 for 84. They really tried to control the ground game. 4 rushing touchdowns for Washington, including 1 for Jared Fudge. Marcus Wheaton, 7 for 92 and a score. Deshaun Jackson, 8 for 115. So with that being said, now let's take a look at the divisional rounds. It's going to be San Diego at Miami, the Redskins at the Saints, Ravens at Jaguars, and Packers at Seattle. Let's take a look and see how the injuries stack up for the 8-8 Washington Redskins, who almost beat us earlier this season. Obviously, we are missing Michael Thomas due to a broken leg and Stephon Anthony to a dislocated hip, but they're missing Barry Nugent, and Nugent dominated us earlier in the season. So much so I want to find that game just to show you guys. It was a close game. We did rally from behind from 2 10-point deficits, even though Nate Sudfeld was their quarterback and not Kirk Cousins. But, I mean, this was a pretty evenly matched game. Overall, Wong did pretty well. Sudfeld made some mistakes towards the end. They had the lead. They just kind of blew it. Charles Sims had a good game. Rakeem Blackman, 3 rushing touchdowns as well. And then you have Casper, who had a rushing touchdown, the friendly ghost. On defense, this is where they started to shine. Barry Nugent had 5 tackles, a tackle for a loss, 2 sacks, and a couple more hits. I mean, he was really, really good, and not having him is going to be a big blow for them. The biggest thing for Washington is to replace the production from Barry Nugent, and they do have Case and Justice. So I'm not too worried for them. I'm worried for us because he's still a really good player. He's not Nugent, but he's still really talented, and Salinga behind him is also a pretty good player. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed. That game will be coming later today. I'm Moonlightswami, and I'll be talking to you guys later. Peace!